Our platform, therefore, could become, I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying this, could potentially become of national importance in terms of supporting India and becoming a global player in the carbon market.
Today we have Stefan. He is the CEO and co-founder of the Hashgraph Group. We also have in India who is the head of global partnerships, again at the Hashgraph Group. Gentlemen, thanks for hopping on today.
Thanks for having us, Brandon.
Absolutely. Well, it's good to have you guys. I think it's been too long since we've dug into something like this. But Stefan, before we get into the topic of the day, and that's India, I would like to just clarify something because I think there's some confusion in the community out there around the Hashgraph Association, the Hashgraph Group, and their respective roles. Can you just outline that real quick?
Yeah, sure. It's been a journey, Brandon. As you know, it's been, I think, 3 or 4 years now. We initially started as the Hashgraph Association, which is primarily focused on broad adoption, ecosystem development. And that has been the journey we've been going along to be able to achieve that broad adoption globally. However, from a grant-giving organization, we also realized very early that you also need to look at how do you go into the commercialization? How do you focus on sustainable business over a long-term period? And that's when we established the Hashgraph Group, early 2023, that is focused on the commercialization of Hedera-powered solutions, but being able to implement as well as make investments in different types of projects. So if I would differentiate between the two organizations, you have THA, the Hashgraph Association, focused on broad adoption, ecosystem development, and working with the community to enable a broader community globally. The Hashgraph Group, on the other hand, is focused on profit making to ensure that we're able to commercialize and sign deals and sign business projects that enterprises may not sign with a non-profit organization. So you really also have a certain liability aspect that is taken into account between the two organizations. And that's how we differentiate between the two. There is no related parties between the two. So THA, for example, has no ownership. THA is a membership organization that allocates grants and achieves broad adoption for Hedera. Whereas THG is focused then on the business development and commercialization aspects. And that's how I would differentiate between the two.
That makes perfect sense. And of course, sustainability is critical, and we want these organizations to be able to last for a long time into the future. And of course, we're planning on Hedera being a 100-year organization, so we want all these other organizations to follow suit. So now let's get into the topic for the day in India. Why is the Hashgraph Group so focused on the Indian market in particular?
Right. So very early on, from the time we started pretty much around 3.5, 4 years ago, we realized the big potential of India because of various reasons, and not just as from a business perspective, but also from a talent pool perspective. So, for example, India has a huge population and therefore a huge consumer base. So it's a very high volume market, but at the same time, it's also a low transaction value market. So it's basically volume driven. So we thought Hedera, with its very low gas fee and time to finality, is ideally suited for a market like India. India is also, I would say, digital infrastructure ready. The government is investing a huge amount of money on digital infrastructure, in the digital economy. For example, in micropayments, they have developed something called the UPI, Unified Payment Interface, which is the largest of its kind in the world. It's something like Venmo, basically, it's a peer-to-peer network where people can pay and it reaches the other person's account instantly, and all the banks are participating in it. And why it's significant is because it is currently running 16 billion transactions a month, and it can be very easily blockchain enabled, for example. So it has all the infrastructure, it has the people, it has a talent pool. Just to give you some context in terms of numbers, the world Web3 revenues or market in 2030 is expected to be something in the region of somewhere between 1.5 to 2 trillion. And India is expected to have at least 5 to 10% of the market share. So we are talking of 100 to 200 billion revenues from Web3 alone in 5 years' time, which is significant. And from a talent pool perspective, last year, India had the highest number of developer adoption and also the highest blockchain adoption among all major economies. So India currently has 12% of the world's total open source Web3 developers, second only to US, which is 19%. And I believe in the future, this percentage is only going to go up not down. So I would say it's a no-brainer why you should be in India. In fact, if you're not in India, we are not doing something right, I would think.
We certainly have to target that market. Stefan, can you just outline the Hashgraph Group's strategy for India overall?
Yeah, so, over the last 3 years, Brandon, we've been focusing on, let's call it the India story. That's how we've defined our strategic approach on being able to build substance in that local jurisdiction. We've been, on this journey of building substance, which is focused primarily on being the service delivery organization, not only for enterprises or government institutions that we work with within India, but most importantly, to be able to serve other projects globally from India. So we see India as a strategic hub in terms of being our global service delivery organization and being able to benefit from the significant talent in terms of engineering expertise, Web3 developers that are based out of that skills capital of the world. So that is really for us a strategic jurisdiction that we want to operate out of. And of course, that's where we have been investing and spending a lot of time building up our organization from India. It is not only focused on, being able to also serve Asia Pac, which is an important region when it comes to global broad adoption. So we've been able to both build up our local substance within India, but also support projects in the Asia Pac region.
Now, Stefan, there was one use case in particular that caught my eye, and that was the State Carbon Bank project that was signed with, I believe, and I hope I get this right, the government of Maharashtra. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So this has been a project that has been, I'd say, in the works for at least 12 months. It has not been, just simply sitting together and signing something. We've worked on this for over 12 months. We had a number of meetings in person through the trips both an India and I have made to India. And as a result of that 12-month collaboration, we signed an agreement with the government of Maharashtra through MPB-CDC, which is a government-owned entity of Maharashtra as well as the government of India. And that is to build a state carbon bank, the first state carbon bank in India on Hedera. I mean, this is huge. This is fantastic news. And in our view, this is the first step of building up Hedera within that jurisdiction to build a state carbon bank, but then beyond that, expand globally across the different regions. And I'm sure India has a few more points to add to that. But it has been a joint collaboration over a 12-month period that we are now very pleased to have concluded. But now the real work actually starts. We're now in delivery mode.
In India, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah. What I'd like to add is that in terms of timing, the timing is just about right, because in April, and we knew about this from last year around September, when the government first published a notification. So as of April this year, India has come under compliance. The India carbon market has come under compliance. So the government has issued a notification initially to 9 high emission industries, for example, like steel, cement, petroleum, petrochemicals, chlor-alkali, coal-fired power plants. So they now need to meet certain emission targets, and if they're not able to meet those targets, there's heavy penalties. At the same time, if people are exceeding those targets, in other words, people who are generating carbon credits are going to be rewarded. Now, therefore, suddenly overnight, it's opened up a huge demand for carbon credit, which off-takers need to buy, but there is no platform in India at this point. There is no adequate infrastructure to even track carbon. Forget monetizing and selling it. So this platform, what it aims to do is that, starting with the government of Maharashtra, because they are the most forward state, and then they're also the number one GDP contributor in India and the most industrial state as well. They have taken the lead, but once we build the platform, it's going to be not just pan-India, but global as well. So what I mean by that is, under the Paris Climate Accord, Article 6, they now enable, in fact, encourage countries to basically do cross-border buying and selling of carbon. And what that means from a revenue perspective is, in India, for example, the cost of generating 1 ton of carbon is just $10. And once you scale, it could even come down to $7, $8. Whereas in mature markets such as Japan, EU, it's like $25, $30 or even more. So you can think of the arbitrage opportunity and what India government is going to gain by being able to track, generate and sell those carbon and gaining that kind of income. And our platform, therefore, could become, I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying this, could potentially become of national importance in terms of supporting India and becoming a global player in the carbon market. And the validation comes from the fact that during this trip, Stefan and I, we spent a lot of time meeting mega corporations, international corporations operating in India, who are generating a lot of carbon in India as well as in other markets. As well as we met with some very senior government executives, not just in Maharashtra, but across India again. And all of these people are interested in joining us in some form or the other, could be as a stakeholder or as an off-taker. So now we have a potential pool of ready clients. We know where to source the carbon credits from. It's a question of putting it all together and bringing it on a Hedera platform. And this is going to be massive. Stefan and I are very, very bullish about this. So you'll see a lot of announcements going forward on this as and when we onboard people.
Well, this is the exact kind of stuff we want to hear. Stefan, are there any other top initiatives and collaborations coming out of the region that you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, so I think one of the great things is when we initially started the journey in India, we had launched the Bharat Blockchain Yatra event, which is across 18 states over an 8-month period. And during that event, we actually had onboarded thousands of users to the platform to be able to become Hedera certified. Now, we've moved beyond that in the sense that we've also had an agreement with the AICTE, which is the education authority in India, where we're able to now have the Hedera training accredited for certified developers. Our goal within India is to be able to certify 50,000 developers over the next 5 years. And this is a commitment we're working very close with the Indian government and various ecosystem partners within India, like NASSCOM is one example of that. So that's one very important initiative, in addition to partnerships, strategic partnerships like the one we signed with KPMG. And in addition, we're also working with the Polyversity. This is an initiative launched by IDS, where we're able to deliver our training and certification programs within this metaverse environment. And we also will be translating that training and certification into about 30 plus international languages to be able to have a broader reach in terms of the types of people that will be able to use and participate in that training.
All right, understood. So in India, what are you working on for the Hashgraph Group in the region that you're most excited about?
So Stefan mentioned some of those names. One is the KPMG Alliance is what I'm very excited about, because I believe it could be potentially the most significant or one of the most significant business alliances within Hedera. So what happened was early on in January, we signed this partnership agreement with KPMG India. Now KPMG India is also the global center of excellence for Web3. So what that means in theory is that any KPMG client anywhere in the world, we could potentially have access to through the KPMG India Web3 team, and basically explore building Hedera solutions. So that's what we have started doing. KPMG has already introduced us to some really large enterprise clients of theirs, and we are in active discussions with them. Very soon, in the next 3 or 4 weeks, we are going to go to market with a co-branded product, KPMG and TAG, so digital identity solution, which again is going to have, we believe it should have very high adoption across verticals and across countries. It's not a country-specific thing. It'll be a global product. So that is a partnership very excited about. We have to make it work, of course. And then also in the last couple of years, we have made strategic investments. As you know, we now have a fund, but this happened before we started our fund business. This was mostly strategic investments where we believe that it will help in building our programmatic, the ecosystem that we try to build in India. For example, there's this company called Agnex Technologies, which is India's #1 agri-tech and food traceability company. We co-invested into them with Novo Holdings, which is one of the world's largest impact funds. Novo is also the foundation which owns Novo Nordisk, which is one of the world's largest pharma companies. So Novo is helping Agnex scale across the world. They have very good presence in Middle East, Asia Pacific, now getting into North America as well. And their aspiration is to become the world's #1 food traceability company. And all of what Agnex is going to be doing is going to be enabled on the Hedera platform. So there'll be end-to-end supply chain from farm to warehouse to the supermarket to the table. That's the vision. And another investment I would like to talk about is a very interesting Web3 gaming startup called Circle of Games. where we co-invested with Nazara Technologies. Nazara, again, is India's largest and the only listed gaming company. They have about 130 million users across the world now and growing. One of the co-founders of Circle Games is the founder of Chingari, which is India's equivalent of TikTok. And it's one of the world's fastest growing community apps. They have about 200 million users. So they have the backing of such strong parents, and they're a very good team. And if you go on DAppRadar, you'll see that Circle of Games has been the number one game on Hedera consistently for the last 1 year now. They've been very quiet, so not many people know about it. And similarly, we have made other investments as well. We have, through our grants, we have financially supported some very large use cases. Cannot talk about all of those right now because some of those are still in the pipeline, but these will all go on stream by the end of the year or next year, early next year.
All right. Well, it sounds like we have the potential for a lot of scale coming on. We actually have had Circle of Games on here a couple times in the past, so I'm familiar with them, and they have some great games to offer the market. So, Stefan, to wrap things up here today, what can the Hedera community expect coming out of the region and the Hashgraph Group in the months and years to come?
I think what we can expect, Brandon, is a lot of exciting products and a lot of exciting projects, just like the one with the government of Maharashtra, as well as the products that we've been recently launching, like ID Trust. So I think what we'll be seeing over the next couple of months and years is the further development of our presence in India, but most importantly, being able to position Hedera at the forefront of the DLT evolution that's taking place in that jurisdiction. I think one of the key things that we've very much focused on at the moment is building substance within India. That basically means continuing to build up the team so that becomes really the center of excellence and the service delivery organization for all the things that we're doing within the Hedera ecosystem. In addition to that, of course, we're operating with various different partners, so continuing to strengthen those partnerships. And in India, we'll dive into that, in some of the partnerships that we have established. But most importantly, it's a long-term play. This is not a short-term strategic approach. We're in for the long run, and therefore our intention is to build substance in India and then be able to scale globally from that jurisdiction. And we're very much looking forward to being able to serve the Hedera community and be able to provide all the great services that they would like to see from Hedera.
Well covered. And in India, is there anything else you'd like to pass on?
Yeah, apart from partnerships we mentioned, we are also in the process of signing an agreement with NASSCOM, which is India's industry platform and chamber of commerce for the technology industry, which is worth about $300 billion. As you know, for the last 25, 30 years, one of the biggest drivers of India's GDP is technology services. And this partnership is going to give us the ability of, we are going to be hosting our training and certification courses on NASSCOM's portal, the Future Skills Prime, which is a joint initiative that NASSCOM has with the Government of India, Ministry of Electronics and IT. So that's going to give us huge visibility and distribution platform. Apart from that, we should be able to work with them and we'll have access to the events and thought leadership. Also very excited about that.
Well, gentlemen, there has been a lot of questions out there about things that are going on in India. I'm looking forward to everything that comes out of the Hashgraph Association, the Hashgraph Group, and India itself. Thanks for coming on today and explaining it all.
Thank you, Brandon, for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.